Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. The boys are back. Got the little holiday break, so Merry Christmas for all those that celebrate out there. Happy Kwanzaa. It is day 3, Ujima, collective work and responsibility to build and maintain our community together and to make our brothers and sisters' problems our problems and to solve them together. I think that's appropriate for the work that we try to do with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. With that being said, welcome to episode 224 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast. The show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports for institutions large and small, from NAIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs in the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-hosts, Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. We are filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to KCH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, Ralph Cooper, in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. With that being said, let me go straight to Mike Washington. How you doing today?
Oh, pretty good, Doc, CB. How you guys doing? I'm
doing well.
Still on the East Coast in Middle Georgia, enjoying some of this nice home cooking.
Don't get too flat-footed with yourself. You know, I know how you do out there.
Yeah. Happy. I'd like to reiterate happy holidays to everyone. Belated Merry Christmas and happy Ujima. Day 3, as Dr. Cavil alluded to, collective work and responsibility. I've been pushing that message to not only my family, but to coworkers as well. So.
Oh, I like it. There you go, Mike. Put it on. Tell them. Let's go to work. Let me go to you, Charles Bishop. How you doing today?
Doing tremendous, Dr. Cavil. Again, like Mike said, happy belated Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Kwanzaa. And enjoy this little time off. You can see a little growth on the face here. So enjoy and play a little bit of golf and, just a little bit of downtime. Just a little bit of downtime.
Yeah, never too much. Too much is we putting in that work, collective work, getting it done. But as you said, there is such thing to get some downtime, and we gave that to you. With that being said, before I celebrate an official holiday for HBCU sports fans out there, let me say that COVID-19, Omicron is real.
Yes.
Stay safe, mask up. For those that can, get the shots. If you are getting the shots, by now, hopefully you're getting the booster. Take care of yourself, your family, and your community. And so if it makes sense in terms of your healthy disposition or religious framework, get the shot, because it's certainly nothing to play with. And make sure whatever your rationale is that you're educated about the process. We'll say that. With that being said, today's episode of Inside HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THC Agency, LLC. THC Agency is a company that provides sporting and educational consulting and data analytics. With that being said, I'd be remiss if I did not celebrate. Today is 3 days after Christmas, but 2 days after Christmas, meaning yesterday, is an HBCU sports holiday, in my opinion. It is the 129th anniversary of the first HBCU football game, as we call it, Black College Football, celebrating Bethune College, now as you all must know, Johnson C. Smith University, playing Livingstone College on the front yard of the university. I like that. The front lawn, as they say. In 1892, December 27th, this happened. Can you only imagine? The two teams played the first football contest between two black colleges, which Biddle won 5-0. Yes, a little oddity in the score. That's how they kept the score at that time. I know that's more like a baseball score, but that's not the misprint. The scoring was a bit different back then, as we say. The teams played two 45-minute halves on a snowy front lawn at Livingston's campus, Salisbury, and hundreds of spectators traveled on foot, by horse, and by mule and wagon to see the match. As you say, we talked about the collective Ujima. This was certainly about the community and the collective work. The women of the institution helped in terms of facilitating this, making sure that uniforms were appropriate. Other students made sure they did the appropriate work for what would be known later as cleats. So it's amazing when you talk about this. I got this information, you can see it out there, but this particular information is coming from Johnson C. Smith University Archives and History. Africana Rare Book Room featured work, Black Heritage Room Rare Books, housed at Duke Memorial Library on the campus of Johnson C. Smith. You can go to https://jcsuarchives.wordpress.com if you want to get more details on it. But I certainly would be remiss if I did not acknowledge that on this show. Sent out tweets and just kept it simple on the tweet and saying this is the 129th anniversary. I can't imagine what Mike try to figure out to do for 130 next year. That would be big, as you would only imagine. So much history, so much fantastic information out there. So I wanted to share that with all our great listeners out there. And shout out to all our listeners. Before I do a little shout out to each of those out there, let me go to you, Charles. What is some news of the day? Or you can give some thoughts if you want to on the anniversary celebration of the first HBCU football game.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you think about what has grown into what we see now, so you always want to acknowledge the first with Johnson C. Smith and Livingstone. And 2021, during a pandemic, you're talking about the top 17 highest attended games had over 500,000 people attend those games. Some over 600,000 people attended those games. So I'm sure with all the totality of HBCU football this past fall, well over 1 million who've attended the game. So, you can't say enough about the first and what it has grown to become and what we know and love.
Great points. I'm glad you shared that. And I'll come back to you with some news, but let me let Mike see if he wants to say any thoughts on this 129th anniversary, day after the anniversary, I should say. What are your thoughts on that?
Man, my thoughts are all over the place. First of all, I mean, who was the crowd there? I mean, that same atmosphere, was it there? It was on the front yard, but this was, Middle College. This was really Johnson C. Smith and Livingstone, still, prevalent colleges today. So 129 yayas, as the old Baptist preachers used to say, yayas later, still talk about these universities, and you still get excited, and they still play a competitive line of football. So I'm really excited, but I'm glad that we acknowledge, especially the accomplishment of these two institutions. I would love to do something, next year at the 130-year mark, because to me that's significant enough. They didn't wear thigh pads back then. They, the helmets were like pure leather. Did a little research. They were playing some grown man football back then on the front yard, and so you can imagine the bragging rights. And we think of the Circle City Classic, Magic City Classic. We think all the classics we have today. Can you think about the bragging rights they had back then, playing football on the front yard? And here we are recognized 129 years later. So that's what excites me. I know that's not analytical or scientific, but that's very exciting to me.
Oh, I love it. I love it. It's perfect. Conference founded in 1912. So you're talking about 20 years later. That's just amazing when you look at it in terms of the history. And you talking about the SWAC wouldn't be coming around in terms of another 30. So a lot of history, a lot of things taking place in terms of that. going on, not even 30 years after the Civil War, 35 years after the Civil War, if you would, around that time frame in terms of that. It's amazing when you think about it. But to put it in some modern terms, I think, Charles, you have some news out there in terms of updates. You know, we're fascinated in a lot of ways about attendance. We collected in terms of, now we're getting in terms of understanding ratings on television, views of that nature. But what kind of updates do you have for us now?
Yeah, and this was put out, of course, Luke Williams, Black College Sports page, and they did a tremendous read on the attendance, highest attendance at the 2021 Black College Football games, and they took the top 17 games there, and out of those 17 games, Jackson State was involved in 10 of those 17 games. When you take a look at it, the top 5 highest attended Black College games this past season, SWAC Championship comes in at number 5, 50,128. Jackson State Homecoming, 53,578 comes in at 4. The Florida Classic, Camping World Stadium, 54,196. The Bayou Classic in the Superdome, 55,791. And Jackson State's game against Alcorn had 58,892 fans there. Just tremendous when you talk about this Jackson State fan base being involved in 10 out of those 17 games.
Yeah, that's amazing when you're talking about the 50,000 plus. You know, 3 out of the top 50. Right under that is Celebration Bowl at 48,653, which was a sellout. So if you could have got the 50 by selling tickets, you might have been on that one.
Might have got another 50,000 in there.
That's amazing when you talk about 10 of the 17 and those type of numbers. That's kudos, a lot to say about that. Let me give a shout out before I go to you, Mike, for some other news you want to jump on. Bernadette Arrington, Ron Alvarez jumped in here. Noel Price, as he's taking care of COVID, take care of yourself. Amos Fawcett, Carl Edmond, Reggie Watson is in here. Alex Hine is in the house. Ricky Burton, Lonnie Shaw, as always. Jerome Jeep Sutton getting down. Kurt Wilson, Joseph Anthony Goodwin, Diane Weber says good day. And she's sharing much love. Chuck Hunt is always in the building. Chad Cooper, Ruben Hogan. Shout out to those lab listeners out there. Keep it coming. We'll give you a shout out. Let me go to you, Mike, in terms of what's some hot news that you have up for us today.
Well, Dr. Cavil, you started out talking about the Omicron variant and being safe. And I think Charles CB alluded to that. And it's starting to rear its ugly head in terms of, collegiate activities. Norfolk State, Wednesday's men's basketball game between Norfolk State and Campbell, scheduled for Gore Arena in Buies Creek, North Carolina, has been postponed due to COVID-19 protocols within the Spartan program. So no makeup date has been immediately announced. Then you have South Carolina, due to, of course, COVID-19 health and safety protocols. South Carolina and South Carolina State have agreed to postpone the scheduled December 29th matchup. Then you move down to Coppin State. The Coppin State women's basketball team has announced that tomorrow's game against George Mason has been canceled due to the university's health and safety protocol. Then we talk about Delaware State. Again, Delaware State Athletics, out of abundance of caution, has placed a hold on its men's basketball team activities due to health and safety protocols. All team activities, including games and practices, are paused until January 2nd, 2022. The Hornets are scheduled to play, I believe, at Penn State on Wednesday, the 29th, of course, tomorrow, but the game has been canceled. And then Maryland Eastern Shore, University of Maryland Eastern Shore, the women's basketball game at West Virginia University, originally scheduled for the 29th at 7 p.m., has been canceled. And that's just not an HBCU thing. Just to put this thing in perspective, there have been 4 bowl games that have been canceled as well. So starting with the inaugural Fenway Bowl in Boston between the University of Virginia and Southern Methodist, scheduled for Wednesday, guess what? Canceled. I believe the Hawaii Bowl. So the Military Bowl in Annapolis between Maryland and Boston College and East Carolina University, again, canceled. So a lot of precaution has been taken. I mentioned Hawaii Bowl for Christmas Eve. That was canceled. a lot of cancellations going across as this Omicron rears its ugly head, but it seems that universities are in a place to make more conservative decisions to cancel these activities. I think we've learned a lot in the last 2 years. Protocols are in place, and it looks like these triggers are being pulled a little bit more earlier in the decision process. So we'll see what comes as we approach, the midpoint of basketball season, where teams get into their conference schedules, but teams are being a lot more conscious. Protocols, the blueprint has been written, they're in place, and a lot of decisions have impacted a lot of HBCU schools.
Well, getting a breaking news alert here, a tweet that John Madden has passed away, Dr. Cavil.
Oh, wow.
John Madden.
Yeah.
Wow.
We talk about e-gaming and the impact that not only Madden had with regards to his coaching career, but we're talking about a giant with regards to the video game industry and sports broadcasting as well. So definitely wanted to
my kids only know him as sports broadcasting, but I was trying to educate them on what his impact was in the announcing booth.
Right.
Style and the way he announced the game really transformed a lot. There's been 3 or 4 announcers that really have transcended the role of announcer. Stewart, another one of those, and John Madden, certainly another one of those. Man, tremendous. And now I'm getting that tweet as well, CB as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a passing time, as you see, as we get in the year. We'll talk a little bit more on what this year and impact was in terms of HBCU sports. We will have our top 10. We'll bring that on Thursday, so make sure you check us out on Thursday. You can list your top 10 or list some of the things that you think should be in the top 10. We'll cross-reference and we'll see if we captured it, or if there's something that you put out there that we didn't capture, maybe we'll go back before we release it on Thursday. With that, we'll take our first break. As you talked about many of the MEAC SWAC cancellations, you have some in the SWAC as well. Prairie View, Valparaiso was canceled. You see that with Texas Southern and TCU was canceled. FAMU in Illinois was canceled. Yep. As you talk about, this is just across the board. Prairie View Northwestern was also canceled, just to give you some indication before we get into conference play, which starts next Monday, January 3rd. So it'll be interesting to see will everybody be able to get their conference games, as you talked about. With that, let's take this break. Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. We'll be right back after this quick break.
Man, Madden. I just saved his special that aired.
Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
This is the BCSN Pod Zone, your place for the news, views, and conversations about all things related to HBCU athletics. Here are the BCSN Sports Wrap, Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, Knights of the Round Table, the pregame show, the Carlos Brown Show, the ONG Strike Zone, and more in one place. We are changing the way you consume HBCU sports, one broadcast at a time.
Let's get back to strolling instead of scrolling. Before we can safely come together, we need the facts on COVID-19 vaccines. Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision for yourself and for your family.
Support the Black College Sports Network so we can continue to provide you coverage. Go to myjbn.com/support and be a part of the Black College Sports
Tell everybody
Network.
they can follow their dreams.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. just got sent an article that was interesting as we talk about attendance for Jackson State and HBCUs. Report out of athleticdirectoru.com says, does college football have an attendance problem? Well, I'm sure it's not Jackson State problem right now. With that, let's get into our last 2021 HBCU Marching Sport poll. So this is the final poll, week 16, if you would. And we're going to name our first inaugural Knoxville's 2021 HBCU Marching Sport poll champion for the marching sport. Let's get into it. Our top 10, not a lot of changes. We did have an update in terms of one of the teams there, marching sport, if you would. But we have at number 10, we have Alcorn State Sounds of Dynamite, as they are in at number 10. You see some of the teams getting votes. Make sure you give them love, but I did want to get in here. At number 9, you have South Carolina Marching Sport 101. They lost the Celebration Bowl, 3-3, 1-1. Represented well, but couldn't get it quite done in that matchup. But they stayed at number 9 as they were the previous week coming into that matchup. At number 8, you have Prairie View A&M Panthers, the Marching Storm, 2-2 on the season, 29 points. Stay at number 8. We go to number 7, which is Bethune Cookman, the Marching Wildcats, 2-1 on 1. Top 10 program. Didn't have a lot of contests. We'll see if that changes next year. At number 6, you have Alabama State Mighty Marching Hornets, 5-2. 1-3 overall, but they are in the top 10, closing out the top 10 at number 6. Let's get into the top 5. Well, we have this surprise we told you about earlier. You've seen Kentucky State Mighty Marching Hornets, thoroughbred band, 5-0, 3-0, undefeated season. They get in the top 5, had the major upset of Tennessee State, the Aristocrats there. They get it done. At number 4, Norfolk State, the Spartan Legion Marching Band, 4-1, 2-0, 68 points, remain at number 4. At number 3, you have a change. Florida A&M, the Marching 100, 5-1, 3-1, keeping a hold of one first place vote, but they lost one at 82 points, and they dropped down from the 2 spot. Bringing us to number 2, Jackson State, Sonic Boom, 8-2 on their final finish, winning the Celebration Bowl. The Sonic Boom with the South got it done. They had those 2 extra games in terms of the last season, the SWAC championship game, along with the Celebration Bowl, which gave them 10 HBCU marching sports contests on the year. Conference-wise, they finished 4-2, 8-2 overall. 2 first-place votes as they take 2 first-place votes from last week, 84 points, moving up a spot from number 3. But number 1, Southern the Human Jukebox, 8-0, 5-0, 5 first-place votes, 90 points, remain at number 1, and they are our inaugural champion of the HBCU Marching Sport Band poll. That's our top 10. Let me go to Charles first. Let me know your thoughts before I go to Mike, because he looks like he has some comments that he wants to share.
I can't argue. Southern, they took everybody's best punches all season, but when you're talking about just this band program, it is tremendous. When you talk about the Human Jukebox and Sonic Boom of the South, it is so subjective. It is pretty much whoever you follow, but Dr. Bill, I commend you with regards to actually looking at the competition of these bands and taking the subjectivity out of it. You know, you have to have some sort of competition. It is marching sport. So I think this is off to a great start in terms of the inaugural year, the initial year. And, you know, Southern Human Jukebox, a tremendous band.
Appreciate it. Well said, my colleague. Let me go to Mike. What are your thoughts?
I'm gonna try to say this as nice as possible. Like, you know, I love you both, right? I really do love you both. But I can go with Southern. I dang sure can go with Jackson State. But when you have Kentucky up ahead against Prairie View, a team who they're going to make a documentary show about based on an article by the undefeated having Prairie View as number 1, and you don't have them in your top 5, something is seriously wrong. There has to be a certain degree of subjectivity based on actual band members.
Yeah, but the point that you have to do in this band, and I told you from the beginning, is Prairie View is going to have to find some traveling partners to go to. You can't just have 4 contest and then talk about the fact that you in the business of marching sport in terms of poll ranking. So you can have the best of sound, you have the most number of folks, but if you're not
nobody sees you. Yeah.
You can't nobody see you. They only
Who saw Kentucky State?
8 games.
Who saw Kentucky State?
Finish, and then I'll give you the mic. In 8 conference games, they participated in 3. 2 of them were classics that they had to participate in.
Right.
So and the other one was what? So you know, when you doing stuff like that, man, you need to step your game up. And I'm a proud Prairie A&M alumni, but I call it like I see it. If you're not marching against another HBCU band, I really don't have time to hear much from you.
So I had what I call arbitrarily fans watching South Carolina State, and they're like number 8, and they don't even keep up with college. But they were like, did they even rehearse for this game? We got them at number 7, number 8. South Carolina State, really?
Yeah, Prairie View's what's the problem? Prairie View's ahead of them. You shouldn't have no problem. Prairie View's ahead of them.
Okay, then you have Kentucky State. What has Kentucky State done?
That's exactly right. Kentucky State had 5 marching contests.
So you're judging about the number of contests,
and went in,
a physical number,
and got it done against Tennessee State.
What do you mean got it done against Tennessee State? What is
they outblew Tennessee State. They outperformed Tennessee State. They got the L. Tennessee State got the L.
Oh, on the field or
yeah,
on
the field.
Fifth quarter?
0 quarter, fifth quarter.
We have to reevaluate our standards. I don't care if Prairie View only played 4 games. We have to understand the quality of the band versus the other ones that they're weighted against.
How you gonna know they have quality if they don't march?
By talking to some band members who evaluated their performances.
Oh, the band members we had on the show agreed with me. They love my poll rank.
They were drunk. Get
the mic, man. Get down here. Turn it off.
Mike, I knew this was coming.
They were drunk.
But hold on. I will say this. Man, if nobody sees you, golly, what can you do? You got to get out on the road.
I agree with that.
It's like nobody
sees you.
Yeah, and nobody know what you're doing.
You know,
but how do you evaluate that criteria that nobody sees you?
If you don't march against
did you see him in the state park?
There's no.
Did you see him in the Labor Day class?
No, seriously. Let me get this in. The whole premise of this poll ranking was marching sport. There's no sport if there's no competition. If there's not another band that you're going against, you don't have 4 of them. That's not my fault. Send some of your money in. Send some money in so they can travel and go play somebody in one of these bands. Because they could have went to Alcorn State. They might would have helped that 3.
That would have helped.
They should have been in that game.
Because I actually want to see Alcorn in this poll because Alcorn had a hell of a year.
So going to Alcorn would have helped them.
But they only did 6 contests and they in the middle of the conference, so they have even less excuse not to go to a lot of games. They in the middle. They have 5 conference contests. Decent. They can do a little better, especially when you get up there and you have Jackson State doing 12, 10 contests.
This poll has to be quality, not the number of, they showed up here, so they get another data point. Come on now.
There was a contest, which means you won or lost. They won or lost their contest. This band is sitting up Prairie View at 500. They won 2 and lost 2.
Okay.
They need to check something. They got in trouble when they went down to Baton Rouge.
Where they took
it to them. The football team got it done on the field, and then they found a way to get the
SWAC championship.
So Prairie View right now needs to loosen up. They lost the coach. They're losing the band. They can't. They don't even have a coach right now. So I'm not sure about
this. This is not about the coach. It's about the band.
Dr. Gibbs inside the HBCU Sports Lab.
This is about the band.
We'll be right back. Some people need to tell the truth. We need some truth serum around here.
All right.
Dr. Gibbs inside the HBCU Sports Lab.
Some need to restructure their damn polls.
And he picks up a first down.
And I'm going to go back to, we talked to our friends, Charles Bishop and Neely. They follow Jackson State football and having dinner with them. I mean, they said this team feels like nobody can score 3 times on them. 3 times. He didn't say if it was 3 field goals, 3 touchdowns. Prairie View has scored twice. Touchdown, field goal, That's how good this defense is. And, whoa, they are as good as advertised. 4th best in all of FCS.
It got to get to the point where whoever we're doing the broadcast that week of the game, they're going to have to sit down with y'all because y'all know us better than everybody. Sure. And y'all know some of the inside stuff that I may not tell them because I don't trust them, but trust us. Okay. Trust y'all.
We appreciate that.
We appreciate that, Coach. Much love, baby.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Your ad could be ran here. MyJBN.com/support. MyJBN.com/support for more information.
This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Since we're going out, and this is my new resolution, I'm just going to tell it like it is. Let's get in here on some of these coaching searches and some of these news dump days that we got with people announcing their coaches on Fridays before big events. I don't get it. I'm going to start with you, Mike. Which one first one you want to go with? That Winston-Salem State that dropped on Friday before the Celebration Bowl?
Yeah, let's start with Winston-Salem State. First of all, the timing. You're gonna drop this. Here it is, new coach. The average person is not gonna find that news for about a week. Serious.
The Friday before the Celebration Bowl, everybody in Atlanta, and the few people that are not in Atlanta, they up there going to New Jersey watching the basketball, and you talking about a new coach you dropped late on Friday.
Please
holidays, you got a whole bowl game, and you're gonna drop the news then?
Please don't tiptoe burgle your coach in. Please don't do that. Don't.
Oh man! So Robert Massey becomes Winston-Salem State head coach. 56 is a North Carolina Central University alum who has been promoted from interim head coach, who had a record of 7-12 in 2019, to full-time head football coach at Winston-Salem State. Any thoughts on this? Gentlemen, staying with you, Mike. What's your thoughts on it, other than the news dump on Friday?
Well, you do have a former NFL star, so you wonder if kind of the blueprint was kind of followed there to get kind of a former NFL star. I will check that box and say, all right, there's some upswing with that. You know, what can he bring to the table? Full-time head coach. It was based on a nationwide search. What can he bring to the table? So he's humbled, but I do, after kind of thinking about it, sat around a couple of days after the Celebration Bowl and muddled, and I was like, what can he bring to the table? I think he can bring some exposure, some notoriety. We'll see. The question I have is the coaches underneath. What is the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator? What does that look like? What does the X and O situation look like? There are probably more questions than answers to me at this point, but I do like it from an exposure standpoint.
Great points that you make there, Mike. You can have the mic back again. As you talked about, he was selected second round in 1989, drafted by New Orleans Saints cornerback from 1989 to 1990. Then he had a stint with Detroit from 94-95, Jacksonville 96, and New York 97. And rose up the ranks as you do in terms of going up the coaching ranks and got it done. He was part of that Shaw University Winston-Salem program staff when they combined for 4 CIAA football championships. So he does have some championship pedigree. At that time, Central hired him, receiver and defensive back from 2003, 2004. So it'll be interesting to see what's going on as you do that. And kudos to this, team maintained, accumulated a 3.0 grade point average, and this was during the COVID-19 pandemic. So he made sure they were putting in work, which is one of the most important things for students. Let me go to you, Charles, in terms of this other weird news dump. This one was even worse to some degree. It was Christmas Eve. Kevin Porter, back in the SIAC as the Central State Matadors football coach. What do you think about Kevin Porter? He does follow the NFL lineage as well.
Yeah, he follows the NFL lineage. He's won before, former SIAC Coach of the Year. He's won championship, but I feel you guys on this. Come on now, a Christmas Eve announcement. God, come on now. You got to do your coach a little better than that. It's just that's marketing 101. Come on now. Let's. But you know what? Kudos, because you did name somebody. There's one school out there that hadn't taken that step yet. We're in the midst of recruiting season, so it's time to get that done. So.
I'm just saying, do we have folks up there on Facebook, Prairie Views, talking about the chimney smoke? Wait, no, the Pope smoke. Then somebody said, what kind of smoke we looking for? I said, purple haze. Pretty good. Well, since we over here having so much fun, let me take it to Tuskegee. Tuskegee landed a big fish. But the thing about this was everybody found out that Miles coach Reginald Ruffin, the AD and coach at Miles, was heading to Tuskegee. The problem was many folks across the HBCU football didn't know Tuskegee was looking for a football coach or AD. And I'm not sure they still haven't released anything on the slaughter in terms of what happened there. But kudos to Tuskegee, because they did get what most of us recognize as a very good football coach.
Tremendous.
As well as the AD, because the entire Miles College program has been doing really big things. Now you have Miles College on the clock as their rivalry. We've seen that recently where coaches leave one program and go to another program in the conference, going back home. So we'll see if this continues to be the trend and works out. So I'm fascinating about this hire. Any additional thoughts you have on this, Charles?
The $1 million question for me is, how does it work? I can understand, being the head football coach and AD works at one culture. Does it particularly work when you have a different personality coming in to do it at a different culture? So it'll be interesting to see if, you still have the same success at Tuskegee that you had at Miles in that dual role.
I think it is interesting. And some people had that question out there. I think it was a good one that people chimed in on. And you don't see it at the FCS level, Division I level, if you would. You don't see that very often. We've seen it most recently, Bethune Cookman, where the head men's basketball coach is also the athletic director. And so I can't remember the last time I've seen it at the Division I FCS level for some time, but we've seen it a couple of times at the Division II level. And I guess some of that could be in terms of the financial money that's associated with that. Usually at the Division II level, you don't have the same amount of sports. Maybe that has some framework to it. As I said, in terms of what Reginald Ruffin, you can't question his ability in terms of what he's able to do. The football team has won at a level unprecedented to Miles College. And many other programs have won in terms of being right there in the championship realm in terms of men's and women's basketball have been in the hunt. Baseball program at Miles is doing really well. So they've been able to have a consistent program for the most part across the board. So it will be interesting to see if can you do that to Tuskegee. I think one of the things that you're looking for him to do at Tuskegee is to, revive the pride. Tuskegee is a very historical, prideful program. The most winningest football program out there. Most championships. Yeah. And there was a period that they were giving Alabama State and SWAC schools major problems in terms of them pushing the limits of people really believing that they should be on their way to the FCS Division I level if they decided to make the move, with the similar type of pedigree that you see at Bethune Cookman as a private school, and certainly Hampton, their sister school in a lot of ways, as they call themselves. So fascinating as they kind of dip and slide, and you saw Miles rise to the occasion. So if you get somebody that's done it in the past, I think that is a good equation to try, is you go get somebody that's been successful in that role. So it'll be fascinating to watch that. Mike, you wanted to get some comments in here as well?
Yeah, just to go back, the timing is a little suspicious for me. So first of all, you don't announce or acknowledge the departure of your head football coach and AD in Willie Slater. Then, if you look at the dates, the AD job was posted on November 8th, and then the head coaching position on December 17th. And then a week later, give or take, you announce the new AD and head coach. I'm scratching my head on this. So, to his credit, hats off to Coach Slater. What did he have? 123 plus wins, 72% winning percentage. But, Ruffin brings, kind of a winning pedigree coming from Miles College. But that timing just seems a little bit off. I hear.
I do think that is interesting when you put that out there, Mike, but it could be just a simple answer. It could be the fact that they were going to actually look for AD, look for a head coach. And then when they got the chance to really talk to Reginald, and part of maybe one of the reasons he would come is he wanted both titles. And they were like, well, at this point, we'd rather take that option and then lose a coach. I know that, Reginald Ruffin had a desire to go to the FCS level and was in at least some of those coaching searches that we saw throughout the SWAC. And as those grinded down, maybe he pivoted and said, hey, this is the next best opportunity. Maybe if I win here at Tuskegee, I can take that next step FCS. It'll be harder for them to deny me that opportunity if I've done it now at two places. So it could be just as simple as that originally their plan was to hire an AD and hire a head football coach. But when the opportunity came to hire Reggie, Coach Ruffin, I should say, that they decided to move in that direction. So it is one to keep your eyes on, very interesting in terms of what that looks like. But let's transition out of here, get ready for our last break as we get into the fourth quarter. We'll talk a little bit on the way back. We'll talk about some of this Black College Football Hall of Fame game matchup that will feature two new coaches in this matchup. In fact, let's stay here and then we'll come back after this. The 2020 Black College Football Hall of Fame will feature Winston-Salem State and Central State. We just talked about two new coaches. So somebody, as a new coach of the program, is going to get a debut win. So this is fascinating. This game is tentatively scheduled for September 4th. It's the Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium. In terms of this matchup, Black College Hall of Fame, and we see all the things that they're going and doing there in terms of that work right now. So Central State has confirmed as the opponent on Friday, as it announced, as the new head coach, Kevin Porter, former head coach at Fort Valley State. We talked a little bit about. And so Winston-Salem State, was first team was announced on December 17th while naming Robert Massey as the head coach. Interesting that they did the same thing. They waited to announce their coach, and then they announced the fact that they're playing this game. Any thought from you, Mike, in terms of this Black College Football Hall of Fame matchup?
No, again, the timing, they announced the coach, then announced the game. So nothing to me about this stands out. I think it's a unique matchup, though, being that, you have two institutions with, new roles in place. I think it's a setup, at least from a press standpoint, a coverage standpoint. I think it's a unique setup from a coverage standpoint and a visibility standpoint. I think that also lends some support to the event in and of itself, and that you have new characters in the equation. You have announcements taking place. You wonder if there was some strategics behind the announcements. I don't know, but I think that lends more to the success of the event because of how you announced it, when you announced it, and now we have the event in and of itself. So I think it'll be interesting.
Well, we talked a little bit about State Fair Classic, question about the attendance there. I think it was listed at 26. I think they're saying 45. But Al is the promoter of the game, is actually the promoter of this game as well. As I go to get your thoughts, Charles, you do have two proud programs. Winston-Salem State had its run in the CIAA for a while, including, obviously the semifinal in 2011 and then making it the NCAA Division II title game in 2012. Central State, we've known in terms of what they've been able to get done in terms of mostly at the NIA level, titles in 90, 92, and 95, making it to a championship appearance at the Division II level during that period as well. What are your thoughts in terms of the Black College Football Hall of Fame matchup between Winston-Salem State and Central State, which will debut two new coaches?
Is this the first year Central State is participating in the Black College Hall of Fame class?
Yes.
Okay, so from a marketing standpoint, you have this Ohio team that's going to be playing here in Canton. So I think that's huge. That was a stroke of genius in terms of getting that local buy-in with regards to Central State playing in this game. So looking forward to it. Two new head coaches coming to this game. So you should get all the pomp and circumstance from the two new head coaches. And then, of course, Central State being sort of a local favorite there in the Canton, Ohio area.
Yeah, somebody said, what if Coach Slater ends up at Miles College? Now, that would be funny. I think it's my understanding he will be taken care of Tuskegee. While they didn't announce the particulars, it's my understanding that it ended well in terms of being a joint decision. But yeah, that would be real interesting. Somehow he ends a Miles. I think Miles has a bigger picture out there. I mean, you do have a coach over there formerly of Grambling State, Fobbs. Maybe they want to reach out in that direction and see if Fobbs still wants to coach. I think I've seen him on Facebook right now. He's enjoying his break as he's in the Caribbean, jumping into the water and on the beach. I can really appreciate that, Coach. I like that. This is Dr. Bill inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watson, Charles Bishop. Stick with us as we go into the fourth quarter, and we'll tease out some of the things you may see on the top 10 list for Friday. I want to get your thoughts on that. Before we do that, we will get into that Labor Day weekend. It's going to be fascinating when you talk about these multiple programs claiming championships. And the only reason I use claiming because we didn't provide the championship to them, but rightfully so. There are 4 teams that can state they are 2021 national champions, rightfully so. We'll get right back after this break, and we'll tease out a little bit about that Labor Day weekend in Miami, which will be all about HBCU football. Boy, I tell you, that'd be a nice place to be. Might think about going down that way next year. We might have to figure it out. If we can get COVID out the way in some way, we'll make it work. This is Dr. Bill inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watson, Charles Bishop. Charles said, come on, he'll be there. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this break.
Bounty versus the old family dish towel. Drying with a fresh sheet of Bounty leaves your hands cleaner than a used dish towel that can carry and redistribute food residue. So ditch the dish towel for better hand hygiene. Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
You see, Head & Shoulders has a scalp shield technology, protects against flakes, even between washes. It's never not working.
Kind of like us. Number 15?
Never not working!
I don't like this one.
Me neither.
Let's get out of here.
Head & Shoulders scalp shield, never not working.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do. Brian, AD, Roy, all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Credit to G Boom. He is heart of heart. He said, couldn't think about Miami, knowing about my Panthers hosting Stu for the Labor Day Classic. Good point, but right now, all things are pointing east. All things are pointing east. The East is where he is. The recruiting by Alabama A&M, FAMU, Jackson State, as I said today, is, before we get into the new year, Dr. Bill, the dean, is kicking it straight. Right now, my A+ students are in the East Division. we got some C's, and we'll figure it out on the West right now. They need some more work. Maybe next year, 2022, it could be a little better. But right now, the A goes to the East. They dominated the West, Valley, all these programs. Alabama State even got. Let me leave that alone.
The West is barely holding up that curve.
Yeah, Bethune Cookman calls different coaching searches over there from Grambling in terms of what they got done. So
good point.
They got done. So as we said, Labor Day weekend. Speaking of Jackson State and FAMU, speaking of Bethune Cookman on September 3rd will be at University of Miami, as Miami will host them, and then the day after, September 4th, you have the Hard Rock Stadium with Jackson State and FAMU. You will have in this game, really serious, think about this. You'll have a matchup that features a team that played in this game 1 point and ultimately came down to who would be represented in the SWAC championship game. That team won and went on to the Celebration Bowl. Both teams can claim HBCU national champion. Both coaches have recruited extremely high. Both coaches believe coming out of that game that they'll do it again. I think it'll be a little more challenging next year, both in the East and West, to be real with you. But still, coming into that matchup, when you can put all that on the table, national #1 recruit, you have another top recruit that says they're taking a trip to FAMU.
Yep.
You have Coach Prime talking about he's not done yet. And you got all these 4 or 5. And then, oh, by the way, you have the other school on the hill, Alabama A&M, saying, yeah, we're doing just fine. We're getting a couple of D1 transfers as well. So this is so fascinating and fun. And then throw in the marching band. Right? 3 of the top 10 bands there. 2 of the top 5. 2 of the top 3 will be in this showcase. Man, sometimes you just got to call it like it is.
Yeah.
If you can't market this game, this game needs to come back to campus if they can't put no 40+ people in this thing.
I'm saying now, I think we're going to look at over 60,000 at this game, this Jackson State, Florida A&M game. I had people texting me today, like we put out on the pregame show page that the tickets were on sale. I had people texting me they were buying tickets now. So this Jackson State, Florida A&M game, and then you add the Bethune Cookman fan base will be down there in Miami as well. This could be huge. This could be huge.
Let me tell you. You got Prairie, you got
California hard, and I give her a shout out. You're right. Hugh Jackson's coming in there. He putting his foot down. He said, "Well, I can do what the others do. I can do one better." He's got some D1 transfers and going at it hard. Mike, what are your thoughts in terms of this?
No. I was going to say, with the exception of Grambling, you got Southern, Prairie View, and a couple of others in the West looking at Alabama A&M, FAMU, Jackson State, looking at they band directors and their head coaches be like, Dr. Lee, what's up? What we gonna do? Seriously, what we gonna do, Dr. Lee? This can't be no flight of the bumblebee. Yeah.
Oh boy. Oh, we kid because we care. But it's gonna be fascinating. It's hard to believe that everything has come to the end. As we kind of tease some out and have this, anything that sticks out to you in terms that has to be on the top 10. Let's not spoil it in terms of what you sent me in terms of your top 10. But what was one of the things that didn't make your top 10 list that you're like, man, it was hard, but I left them off? Let me start with you, Charles.
That didn't make my top 10.
Yeah, one of the ones that didn't make your top 10. She's like, ooh, you hated to do it, but it ended up on the cutting floor.
Yeah, what immediately comes to mind is the 5-set match between Florida A&M and Jackson State in the volleyball championship. That was, it gave volleyball, HBCU volleyball, a shine. I mean, two top-notch volleyball programs that were going at it, and FAMU came out on top in that 5th set, and it went down to the wire. So, that immediately comes to mind. But, ooh, wow, that's a tough question. I just immediately what comes to mind is the fact that you even had you played football in the spring. You played sports during this pandemic. That is all encompassing. And for our administrators and SWAC commissioner to facilitate that process, I think that's huge. Now, it didn't, it was my honorable mention, but I just, go back to 2021 that you were playing games in the midst of a pandemic, and it actually happened. You pulled it off,
Yeah, that's true. Mike, what's your thoughts? What didn't make your top 10 that you had to leave on the cutting floor? You was like, man, this is good, but not in my top 10.
I tell you, the toughest one for me that did not make the top 10 was FAMU getting a bid in the FCS playoff. That was the one I thought about. I was like, man, where does this fall in? And I was like, Bowie State in their run, they made it to the quarterfinals in the playoffs, and then turn around. We had the bowl game with the Celebration Bowl, and then you had strong defensively led FAMU getting another bid. that one to me was a strong, and I mean a strong, honorable mention, but it did not make my top 10.
Yeah, I see it, boy. The Rattlers gonna be mad at you. I don't care about comment commits. I ain't no celebrating until the LOI is signed. True, but these are early commits in December, so a lot of these folks have signed the letter of intent. They're signed on the dotted line. You're talking about some of those commits that are out there. That's a good point, but it'll be interesting when you talk about what's going on here. So I'm fascinated to see all this in terms of the top 10, and you may be surprised as this is a combination of top 10. So we looked over and saw all the cross listing between the three of us. We'll check on the input of some other folks that said what should be in the top 10, and then we'll release it. We'll have 2 honorable mentions of the top 10, but on Thursday, we'll give you our top 10 list in terms of what happened in 2021. And remember, we're going back to essentially January, February with the spring. So you have all those things to think about, some of the spring matchup. And we're going to go deep. We're just going to talk about football. We're going to go into basketball, volleyball, baseball. So we looked at all of track and field. We're going to see who made the top 10 list. That'll do it for us today. That's Dr. Bill inside the HBCU Sports Lab again. Happy Kwanzaa as you celebrate this week. Happy holidays. Take care. Obviously, be safe out there. COVID-19 is for real in terms of Omicron. Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 o'clock. We look forward to you next week as we will discuss the latest news in the lab. Tune in for us on Thursday. We'll be right back with our top 10. We'll give that to you on Thursday. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That's DrKenyattaCavil, DrKenyattaCavil. Inside HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Dream big. Continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles?
Of course.
Mike?
Lecture.
Dismiss.
We don't duck and dodge. Ain't no Edward Waters on my schedule. 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 Ain't no Edward Waters on my schedule.
Just saying. Quit that, Coach Maynard. We're going to let you have the last word in terms of Alabama A&M fans. But anything that you want to share with the viewers, any last thoughts you want to share?
Did I want to share?
Yeah.
Oh, go Bulldogs! Hey, baby, y'all tune in ESPN this week, and we're gonna try to make you proud and give you a good show, offensive, defensive, special teams, and represent the way the Bulldogs represent.
Don't worry, it's all a part of the game. Tune in every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern for Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Course, lecture, dismissed.